Hurricane Arthur is taking aim at the Outer Banks of North Carolina this morning. Hello everybody, good morning to you. I'm Mike Nasel with a video update on the first hurricane of the 2014 Atlantic hurricane season. Came a lot earlier than our first hurricane did last year, and you can see as the morning visible image shows, we clearly have a hurricane on our hands, Category 1. Right in here is the eye of the hurricane starting to bubble there, very ominous as we go towards the 4th of July weekend here for the North Carolina coastline. Here's the latest on Hurricane Arthur as of 5 a.m. Eastern. It was at 31.3, 79.1 west. It is a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 75 miles per hour, gusting upwards of 90. Still moving north at 9, although it is beginning to show signs that it's finally making that right-hand turn. 985 millibars vortex message and data from Recon shows it may even be lower than that, maybe in the 983 or 984 millibar range. Nonetheless, expected to continue to intensify and head in a general northeast direction, but it's really going to be a close call for the North Carolina coastline, very, very close, and that is exactly why we have hurricane warnings out, including Pamlico Sound, Albemarle Sound, the Outer Banks, and those mandatory evacuations. I know it's the 4th of July weekend, and that's a lot of revenue, and I know people on vacation might be angry, but remember, this is a hurricane taking aim, and you don't want to take the chance that it won't strengthen quickly or more than expected and actually make a landfall. And a track like that, where it actually crosses the coast, cannot be ruled out. So we're going to have to watch this very, very carefully. Here's the computer models. You can see they're tightly clustered, but not good enough when you're talking about splitting hairs, whether or not the center goes over the Outer Banks and makes an official landfall, or whether it does what the GFS shows and comes inland. That doesn't seem too likely at this point, or if it stays enough offshore to where you don't even get much in the way of hurricane force winds, although you'll probably get tropical storm force winds for sure. You can see the wind fields expanding a little bit here as the hurricane moves towards the northeast. These winds will scrape along the coastline, but the hurricane force winds will be in an area closer to the eye of the storm. Now, here's the storm surge potential, and this is from when it was a tropical storm, but you can see that anywhere 6 to 9 feet of surge cannot be ruled out on these barrier islands, and Category 1 hurricane strengthening if those winds come around counterclockwise and you get an onshore flow, and then you have wave setup on top of that. You could have some flooding. We saw that with Hurricane Alex a decade ago. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years. As Alex raced by off to the northeast, it strengthened into a Category 2, which could occur with this system and caused a lot of flooding on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Here's the infrared imagery of the hurricane. You can see Arthur trying to wrap around an eye, and it's been having trouble, dry air intrusion. But when an eye does pop out right in the middle of that, you can see expanding outflow. It looks much better defined. I gotta say, July 1st it was a depression. Yesterday morning a tropical storm. This morning a Category 1 hurricane. Pretty standard, heading towards the beaches of Carolinas on the 4th of July. Pretty textbook for a hurricane. And you can see the convection bursting there. Looking, just take a look at that for a second as it continues that northward motion. But you can see it does appear to start to kind of bend towards the right there at the end, although that could also be trickery as the convection wraps around. It might look like it's bending right, but it may not actually be doing so. Phil from Albany at American Weather provided this loop. Shout out to Phil. You can see there's the radar, and every time it starts to look good, the dry air wraps back into the center, so it's clearly having problems. This dry air is kind of eating its way through the center, but it should eventually wrap it out and be able to intensify. But note there at the end, that little right-hand turn, there is definitely a little bit of a motion like this, and if that continued, maybe we could get it to completely miss the coast, but you cannot be letting your guard down at all, and especially not until it passes your longitude. So, for example, Charleston, you seem to be almost in the clear. Georgetown, not yet. Myrtle Beach, not yet. But as it continues to make an eastward adjustment to its track, we'll be able to do that. You can see there's the radar view from further out, and there's that dry air still in training in the circulation. Little thing, a little curlicue down there, but a hurricane heading towards the general vicinity of the North Carolina coastline. The upper level environment has gotten much more conducive. You can see the flow starting to bend over the top of it like that, which is helping its outflow, especially on the eastern side here, and it's looking better on the western side. So all systems seem go for continued intensification to at least a strong Category 1 hurricane, although something stronger than that cannot be ruled out, especially as it begins to accelerate on off towards the northeast. Here's the radar view of the entire United States, and again, not many showers associated with the troughiness here, which is going to eventually help push Arthur out. But Arthur clearly a little curlicue down there, a hurricane off the southeastern coast of the United States. That'll do it for the morning update. If you live in the Outer Banks, heed the advice of your local officials and make sure your hurricane plan is done. Should have been ready before hurricane season, because here we are, July 3rd, 2014, Hurricane Arthur bearing down on the southeast coast of the U.S.